The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. If you stand in Lytle Park and know how to read the built environment, you can tell the entire history of the region. The first, the second, and the third Cincinnatis all converge in the park at the east end of 4th Street. In 1964, Council named Lytle Park the city's first historic district. Because of the legislation included a 50-year sunset date, Council must renew or modify the district before August the 1st, or the district will expire. In preparation for this process, the Historic Conservation Office and the Cincinnati Conservation Board combined two areas that are established in that original district into a single set of guidelines to cover the entire district. The boundary now includes the east side of Broadway between 4th and Arch Streets, but removed a number of properties such as Woodford Building on 4th and the townhouses on Arch Street behind the old Guilford School. To discuss the proposed changes in Lytle Park District from the perspective of those responsible for managing historic preservation issues in the city, I am joined by Larry Harris, the Urban Conservator for the City of Cincinnati. The Urban Conservator and his staff provide the professional guidance and staffing for the City Historic Conservation Board. And Margo Warminski, the Preservation Director for Cincinnati Preservation Association. She coordinates the technical Preservation Task for CPA, which is a private organization that advocates for historic preservation and is the preservation partner of the city's Historic Conservation Office. Both of you, welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to begin here, what's the significance of the redrawn boundary lines? I know that there's, been this consolidation of these two sub-areas, but you've also redrawn some of the lines, and we can bring the map back up. But Charles, Larry, what's the significance of these new boundaries?
Well, Dan, as you stated, the significance begins with trying to bring the two earlier districts, Dayton Street, which was a second district created around the same time, into a modernized district format. Most districts don't have an expiration date, and that's the primary purpose.
That's why this is all coming up at this time, 50 years.
We don't want to have to do this again. We want to have it in place and let it stay in place in perpetuity. The other significance is to minimize the number of inconsistencies or differences in the boundary areas. As you know, that Lytle Park boundary has an A and a B area. One area, the A area, has more stringent guidelines and protects the front of the properties primarily. Mm-hmm. The B area does do that as well, but there are less restrictions on the work that you could do in the district. Those are the two primary reasons for making sure that the new district was created to avoid some of those pitfalls.
Margo, from your perspective, and Cincinnati Preservation Association nominates individual buildings, but also is very concerned about districts because it's the better way to sort of gather lots of things together. This is the original district. How do you see the redrawing of the lines here?
Yes. Well, we were very pleased that the district was going to be renewed and move forward. The boundary that was drawn up by the Historic Conservation Office, we were very pleased to see that it was extended west to Broadway. Later that got taken out, but we haven't gotten to that yet. The district boundary was a compromise in that it made some concessions to property owners in the neighborhood, namely Western Southern, by leaving out Arch Street buildings and leaving out the Woodford building because they saw those sites as future development opportunities for them as they're expanding their urban campus. And leaving those buildings out is a loss. It diminishes the district somewhat, but the important thing is that the district will be preserved and will move forward. It is a historic district designation is an assertion that the whole is larger than the sum of its parts.
Okay, so they're really, and with Lytle Park, there's really a part of that.
Yes,
when
indeed.
You're in Lytle Park,
yes,
you don't just focus on the details of this building or that building. It is the total environment that you're standing in or walking through or whatever that's really there. On what is out under these new boundaries, One of the things is University Club.
Yes.
The owners did not want to be in the district.
That is correct.
Is that a hard decision from the urban conservators' point of view? That is not only in terms of the architecture, but in terms of the function of that organization and that institution in the community?
Hard in a sense that there are buildings that are significant to the district, that are architectural statements in the district that are now unprotected. We generally try to make the owners of the properties controllers of their properties, and it is a vote that is made but not by me necessarily,
right,
but by the Historic Board and also Planning Commission and now City Council. It was hard because I wanted to protect those buildings. As you know, that there was a boundary that was submitted to and recommended to the Historic Conservation Board, and that was a boundary that included those 3 buildings along, or the 4 buildings along Broadway. That boundary was sent to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission voted, to remove those buildings at the insistence of the owners.
You know, I mean, University Club would probably be the building that most people would know, but also the Academy of Medicine right next to it. Probably what people don't know much about would be the Arch Street, which is this little fragment of the first city, of the earliest mid-19th century city that sits behind Guilford School. It sits, behind all of that. And if you walk back there, which I do, I love to walk back there because you can get a sense of that early city. But it probably doesn't seem like much to most people. I mean, it wouldn't seem important, but it's that fragment of that first city. And
you're correct. There are remnants of the complete streetscape that was there when the Western Southern Garage was built. A lot of those properties were torn down.
Right. And
there are properties owned by Western Southern now. And, for the most part, it was a hard decision there as well, because this is a remnant of what was there. Lido Park was probably one of the more diverse architectural styles in districts, and so we had to make the decision as to the future, as well as generally what was going to be managed in this new district.
Margo, how important are districts in this designation for the preservation and what goes on in the future in these districts? Let's take the example of the Anna Louise Inn, which has been in the news a lot. Cincinnati Union Bethel has, after some struggle, decided to move, and Western Southern has will acquire the property, or has acquired the property. I'm not quite sure what the technical phrase would be there. But what will the district do in terms of what can be the possible future of a building like the specific building of Anna Louise Inn?
Well, the importance of the Anna Louise Inn was called out in the original district designation back in 1964, because the way it was written, it called out several buildings in the district as like benchmarks to guide the scale and the style and the appearance of future development around the historic districts. It was considered to be one of the landmarks, or one of the pivotal buildings of the district.
So what about moving forward? If this district if council adopts the new rules, people think if something's on some historic list, it can't be torn down.
That's not exactly the case.
It's not exactly the case.
The recommendation of the guidelines is to maintain the historic properties, because if they're gone, they're gone. They can't be rebuilt, and they're no longer historic if they are rebuilt, even if they look like the original building. But we have to adjudicate every proposal brought in by the owner before the Historic Conservation Board, because it's a major alteration to the site and the building itself. And then the decision will be made by that board based on the case that is presented by the owners, which is what we do in all of the cases.
So no matter what the guidelines are here, whatever in the future might be proposed for that building or that site would then individually get dealt with. Is that what I hear you say?
That is correct. although the significance of the structure is going to play a big part in that, because we don't want to lose a gem that we've had around for hundreds of years just because the owner wants to do something different. But it is a choice that the owner makes, and he has to prove their case in front of the board. And then if the board says no, he has to go with that. If the board says yes, then we move to the next step.
You know, a lot of people, property owners, in the case of University Club, has said that living under these sorts of rules, historic conservation rules, preservation rules, it makes things just too expensive to do the sorts of maintenance and renovation that's necessary with older buildings. Margo, what do you say to people? I mean, this is the area you work in. What do you say to people who say, I just don't want to deal with this, it's too expensive, it's adding a layer of cost?
If district designation and following guidelines were so onerous, we wouldn't see people flocking to move into these historic districts. Cincinnati, after it enacted Lytle Park and Dayton Street, decided that it liked local historic districts, and they passed a strengthened and updated ordinance in 1980 called the Historic Conservation Legislation, which recently was revised once again and brought into the 21st century.
Which was when the Urban Conservator's office was created.
Exactly.
That's right.
In 1980.
As well as the Historic Conservation Board.
Yeah, okay.
If you attend the bi-weekly meetings of the Historic Conservation Board, you'll find that people come before the board all the time for alterations, additions, new construction, and occasionally, unfortunately, demolitions, just a fact of urban life. So people want to live in these districts. There have been lots of studies done by a economist named Donovan Ripkema, who owns a consulting firm called Place Economics. And based on hard data from cities across the country, these districts are good for development because they raise property values, they stabilize them, and in general, they had fewer bad effects from the real estate bust. They maintain their desirability as a place to live.
And one of the things to note about Lytle Park is that the Lytle Park district, not just the green space, but the buildings around it, Western Southern for a long time, which its headquarters is right on the edge of this.
That's correct.
Has been key in the redevelopment, the development, preservation of this district. I mean, you can point to the Phelps,
yes,
and the redoing, and we have a little video of how the Phelps apartments have been redone into a residence hotel, and also that apartment building, when the tunnel was built, really helped pay for the lid on that tunnel to create. That was and that's Western Southern. If they hadn't been there, that wouldn't have gotten done.
They have been a very strong supporter of the district since the beginning of the district. They recognize the importance of the district, and you're right, they played a big part on creating what is now Lytle Park. Back to the comment on the expense of renovation. I had called yesterday in my office for a gentleman who was looking at a building that was in the National Register District and locally designated recently. And he asked me the same question, and I pointed out to him that there is really not that much difference in the cost of renovating a building. It's basically the quality of what you put into that building. It's no different than any other renovation in an area that is not designated as a historic district. There may be specifics on windows, there may be specifics on architectural features being repaired as opposed to tearing them off and replacing them. But then generally, if the owner of the building wants the building to look as best as it could, they would go along with those things, and the cost is not that great, if any, greater than a normal renovation.
I have less than a minute left. I just want to clarify. What's the timetable here? What's the calendar that we're facing in terms of getting an approval for a renewal of this district?
The district has been through the Historic Conservation Board. It's also been through the Planning Commission, and it will go to the City Council for approval in June. I believe June 4th, or in that area. I can't remember the exact date.
And Council has the final vote?
Yes, it is.
I think it's the 19th.
Is it the 19th? I'm sorry if I got that date wrong.
We are looking forward to it.
Yes, and it is an ordinance that is written to make law of the district as a part of the zoning code. That's why council has to evaluate it and also vote on it.
If it passes, it won't have the 50-year sunset clause.
No, it
will be an ongoing
exactly,
district.
Correct.
When does Dayton Street come up?
Next year.
Next year. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens there. Thank you very much. Good discussion of what the elements are.
You're welcome.
Okay, stay tuned. Hundreds of savings and loans helped build the Cincinnati suburbs between 1880 and 1970, but largely disappeared after the 1980s S&L scandals. After the break, a discussion with the leader of the Warsaw Federal Savings and Loan in Price Hill about the role of his S&L in the 21st century and its commitment to the community. Welcome back. If you looked in the city directories in 1914, you would find listings for hundreds of savings and loans, or buildings and loans. Not one per neighborhood, but 5 or a dozen per neighborhood. These were the grassroots institutions that allowed thousands of families to finance moves from the crowded basin into the emerging hilltop neighborhoods between 1875 and 1920. In the 2 decades after World War II, savings and loans flourished, financing the suburban dreams of millions of returning veterans. Deregulation in the late 1970s and early 80s allowed unscrupulous financiers to manipulate the industry, resulting in the S&L crisis of the late 1980s and the disappearance of most savings and loans. One of the few financial institutions in Cincinnati that still uses the name Savings and Loan is Warsaw Federal Savings and Loan in Price Hill. I am joined now by Rick Flynn, the president of Warsaw Federal Savings and Loan. Rick, welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you, Dan.
And interesting that you still use this term. There aren't many institutions out there. Most of them are savings banks or banks. They've converted to one another. Why savings and loan? Why hold with that old tradition?
Well, we're very proud of our tradition and all of the families we've served over the many, many years. Warsaw Federal has been around for a long time.
Since 1893.
Since 1893, when 3 individuals started Warsaw Federal in the Warsaw District in Price Hill. And they wanted to serve the community by helping individuals buy homes. And in addition to that, there was a thriving business district in Price Hill at the time. But Warsaw Federal wasn't the only one. I mean, there were many, many other savings and loans and across the United States. In fact, there were tens of thousands of financial institutions, banks, small thrifts, things of that nature. But over the years, that's declined significantly. Today, there's only about 6,700 banks, savings and loans, community banks across the United States.
Yeah. I grew up in a savings and loans family. My father worked his entire career for Columbia Federal in northern Kentucky. Sure. And so this is an industry that I feel personally very connected to. And in the tradition of the traditional savings and loan, it was really rooted in a community. Warsaw Federal would have been rooted in Price Hill, right? Knowing the families, making the loans for those houses, and really servicing the loans, not selling them off as paper.
That's right. Warsaw Federal was started in the Warsaw District of Price Hill, and it was designed to help individuals, you know, buy their first home or buy other homes, and that was the purpose of savings and loans.
Yeah. So, and we were mentioning that there were thousands of these savings and loans, hundreds and hundreds in Cincinnati. My favorite title for a savings and loan, and I used to stand in front of this institution catching a bus when I lived in Northside, it was the Quick Withdrawal Savings and Loan, right on Hamilton Avenue, the 4200 block of Hamilton Avenue. I always thought that was a wonderful name. But anyway, what's a savings and loan today? What are you doing today, and how is it maybe the same, and how is it different than what it traditionally has done?
Well, I think savings and loans today have to be different than what they were in the past. There is so much competition and so many other types of banking or financial products available today. So for them to be competitive, they have to step up their game. One thing that our board did, I thought very wisely, in 2011 was was to decide to do a number of things. One, still provide outstanding customer service. But secondly, they wanted to make their mark in traditional residential lending. And so we wanted to really step up our game on that. So in addition to the 2 depository locations we have, one on Warsaw Avenue and the other one in Saylor Park, we've opened up 2 residential mortgage lending offices, one in Milford and the other in Montford Heights. So today we have approximately 15 loan officers, whereas before in 2011 we only had 1. And this is what differentiates us, because we want to be we know we can't do everything, but we want to be very good at residential lending.
And can you be competitive? Because one of the competitions, I mean, the whole savings and loan,
yes.
You know, the interest rates have, in our current economy, aren't very high.
Sure.
Can you draw the savings part so that you have money to loan?
Well, we do a number of things. We still portfolio a number of our loans that we do, but we also package and sell our loans on the secondary market. And, you know, so that allows us to be extremely competitive on our rates, because we offer a number of products with regard to that, not just 1 or 2. And so when a borrower comes to us, depending upon their needs and their situation, we have a number of, say, arrows in our quiver to offer them, you know, something that really fits their needs.
My understanding, too, is that you want to maintain that strong, even though you've expanded in terms of offices,
yes.
You do have this strong relationship with the Price Hill community.
Yes.
And there's this new initiative in Price Hill of a new theater.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit and how Warsaw Federal is connected to that.
Sure. Our goal is to continue to contribute back to the community. And Price Hill is where we started, and Price Hill is where we want to stay. And so there is a theater designed by the Cincinnati Landmark Productions, the same group that successfully ran the Showboat Majestic for many years, and then also came in with the Covedale Theater, saved it, and continues to operate it today. They have designed a theater in the Warsaw District, which is right across the street from the Prima Vista Restaurant or the Incline Public House. And so this is a 220-seat, it's a very intimate setting for plays.
I think we've got an image here of the Incline Theater. We'll get up, go ahead.
Okay. So it's designed to really do a great job with their plays and things of that nature.
So this is for live theater?
It is.
It's not for movies?
That's correct.
This is for live theater?
Yeah, this is.
And one of the people behind this is Roger Pilley, right?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah, Roger is known by a lot of people in the theater community, and a really good person who's made a lot of things work.
Yeah.
So what's Warsaw Federal's relationship to Incline Theater?
We have partnered with them. We really believe in the project because there's a significant amount of rejuvenation of that part of Price Hill that's happening right now. And so we are the major sponsor of the theater, and so we will have the naming rights. It'll be the Warsaw Federal Incline Theater.
And has that been particularly known? We've reported about the Incline Theater in the past, but I don't see that we've ever really made a big deal about it. It was going to be the Warsaw Federal. Yeah,
we've recently signed those papers, and you know, but we've been working on it for quite a long time.
Why is that important to a financial institution like yours?
Well, I think for us it's essential because our directives from our board is to remain in Price Hill and to be a contributor or a foundation for the community. And so by showing our commitment to that community, by helping to make this theater happen is very important. That theater will spawn off a multiple number of positives for the community. Restaurants, other venues, but also rebuild the interest in that Warsaw district.
There's a lot of things happening. I mean, you mentioned Prima Vista, but you also the Incline development, which the mayor has had a strong hand in.
Oh, Mayor Cranley has been wonderful.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
really
there's a lot of focus, and if people don't know
Price Hill. And of course, the joke is if they live over on the east side of town, they may not know Price Hill very well. It's really good to get over and see what's happening.
Sure, it really is.
A lot of good things and tremendous views.
There are a number of investors that are working hard today to make that a reality.
Okay.
Bill Burwinkle, for instance, Block Ministries, his coffee shop, that coffee shop in one of his properties. That's another start for something good to happen. And there are other investors too. Don Driehaus and Pete Whitty in the area are really working hard to try to make some things happen in the business district.
Okay, a lot of things on the west side that maybe people don't know about. Warsaw Federal right in the middle of it.
Yes, we want to be that.
Well, very good. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this morning, and good luck in the future. We'll see what happens in Price Hill.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women working to shape a better community for the future. Have a good week.